Another beautiful day, another time for a camera comparison. This time around we have the Huawei Mate 60 Pro against the Honor Magic 5 Pro, where the Huawei has a 50 megapixel main camera, 12 megapixel ultra wide and a 48 megapixel telezoom, and the Honor has a triple 50 megapixel setup, but with a large 1/1.12-inch size sensor, which is quite interesting. And yeah, the Huawei Mate 60 Pro, we still really don't know the sensor size. I expect it to be 1/1.3 inch, but some people claim it is just an improved 1/1.5 inch. We will see what the results show us. And of course, then we have also a front-facing camera here as well. You can see the specs on the screen, and I think we start off with the front-facing camera. Front-facing camera video on the Huawei Mate 60 Pro, 0.8 times magnification. If I want to, I can go to wide, which looks like this. As you can see here, the sun is in the background, but still my face is nicely illuminated, so we have relatively good HDR. I can go to 1 times if I want to. This is now how 1 times looks like, and it has the better stabilization. How about colors and so on? I think this is a very good selfie and vlogging camera on the Huawei Mate 60 Pro. Now I'm recording with the Honor Magic 5 Pro 4K 30, the maximum that it can record. Unlike the Huawei Mate 60 Pro, they can also record 4K 60 frames per second. It has 0.7 times magnification, so the widest one by default. So you can see my finger probably slipping in a little bit there. And 0.8 times looks like this, and then we have 1 times, which looks like this. I think it is a little bit slightly overexposed there, but handling HDR as well, pretty good. What do you think? Which one is the better for vlogging and selfies? Let's record 4K 30 frames per second on the main camera sensor here on the Huawei Mate 60 Pro. What do you think about the quality here? It is probably switching to f2 as a lens, as an aperture, because we have the variable aperture, which is like one of the features of the Huawei Mate 60 Pro. What do you think about the color stabilization? How's HDR with the sun in the background right now? And of course I have the possibility to go and switch to the ultra wide angle just by tapping the ultra wide angle there, and have to put my hand out of the shot. So this is the ultra wide angle. What do you think about the ultra wide angle here? I think they improved it quite well for video. We have also autofocus on the ultra wide angle as well, but this is, I think, also ideal for vlogging if you want to keep a lot of things still in the shot. And yeah, what do you think about the quality here? And then we will also perform a zoom test. So let's try to zoom on those towers there in the background. So I have directly a zoom option to 4 times zoom. It switch lenses, as you can see, and then let's go to 10 times zoom, which looks like this. And I can also go and zoom in up to 15 times here on the Huawei Mate 60 Pro. This is now the Honor Magic 5 Pro, maximum 10 times zoom only, so I don't have the option to go to 15 times. I can go back to 4 times, I have zoom buttons as well, and 1 time, which uses a very large sensor, 1/1.12 inch sized sensor, so almost 1 inch sized sensor, very large aperture as well. So what do you think about the background blur? What do you think about the quality of this one here with the sun in the background, HDR, bokeh and stabilization? Of course, 4K 30 is limited here to 15 minutes on Honor devices for some reason, so probably against the heat and problems with overheating. So we have like this limit of 15 minutes, and 4K 60 frames per second is available on all back cameras, but I'm recording here because I have a 4K 30 timeline in 30 frames per second. Of course, I can also jump to the ultra wide angle. So let's do this quickly. Here we have the ultra wide angle, 0.8 times magnification. What do you think about this one here? I think also stabilization, colors are okay, and it can be definitely used for vlogging as well. How does this compete with the Huawei Mate 60 Pro? One of the cool things of the Huawei Mate 60 Pro is its variable aperture. I'm recording here right now in Pro video mode with f1.4 aperture, so this gives me a nice background blur, which is one of the cool features here on the Mate 60 Pro with its main camera sensor. So what do you think about the colors, about the bokeh and about stabilization? The Honor Magic 5 Pro has also an ace up its sleeve, the movie mode, with different color profiles and LUTs that you can apply. You even have a log mode here where you can record in log and color grade the footage later on. What do you think about this one here, especially when it comes to the colors, bokeh, stabilization? This movie mode is not only working at 16:9 but also 21:9. If you want to, you can change this, but this is also like 4K 15 minutes time limit, which is a little bit of a downside here, but you can then also record in 24 frames per second, which are a little bit more cinematic. So what do you think about the Honor Magic 5 Pro's movie mode? A video comparison, front-facing camera, Magic 5 Pro on the left, Mate 60 Pro on the right. What we can see here is better HDR on the Mate 60 Pro. We have a bit of sun flare issues on both for sure. A bit more contrast added on the Mate 60 Pro, a bit more overexposed on the Magic 5 Pro throughout the whole video. And you can see that even in the different zoom levels, they are acting very comparable. And we have the same kind of issues with the bit darker face, a bit reddish face on the Mate 60 Pro. On the Magic 5 Pro, a bit overexposure for sure. And you can see it here in the background as well, where the Mate 60 Pro has a bit of warmer kind of color tones in the background as well, where here the greens are a bit more greenish, a bit more bluish as well. And here the background is much warmer on the Mate 60 Pro. And we can not only see this with the front-facing cameras, we can see it especially also with the main cameras on the back, especially the ones that we have in the zoom lens. So let's go and check out the zoom, 10 times zoom against, let's go to 10 times zoom, 10 times zoom. And what we can see here again is much more bluish kind of exposure on the Magic 5 Pro. The Mate 60 Pro much warmer in terms of detail level. Even if I go to 100% and take a look at the video here in details, I don't see much more details there on one or another. Very comparable. I don't see much of a difference there. Where we can see detailed differences is the main camera sensor. So let's go back to the main camera sensor here. And you can see that the Magic 5 Pro has this problem of the sun and the lens having this lens flare effects not all the time, but most of the time. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you don't see it. But if you have the sun in the background, it's like a huge issue. We can see also the much more cooler colors on the Magic 5 Pro, much more warmer kind of punchier colors on the Mate 60 Pro. Again, a bit slightly overexposure on the Magic 5 Pro. The Mate 60 Pro a bit warmer for this taste. Bokeh, yeah, you be the judge here. I think there's a bit more bokeh on the Magic 5 Pro, but it's very, very close. And in the video, I really did not notice that. Let's go to a more shadowy area where we can see as well a bit more bluish kind of Magic 5 Pro. You can also see that in this case, when there is not the sun shining from behind, we have a bit more contrast added to the shot here, especially in my hairline and my eyebrows. You can see that, where the Mate 60 Pro keeps it a little bit more brightened up there, not so much contrast added as on the Magic 5 Pro. And when we take a look at the ultra wide angle, just in a sec, there, the ultra wide angle, you can clearly see a big difference. We have this a little bit more over sharpened kind of look that you immediately see here on the Magic 5 Pro. HDR effect kicking in. Here on the sides is pretty soft. And the Mate 60 Pro has the sides a little bit sharper, has also HDR effect that you can see in the background especially, but not so much on my face, where I think it should matter more. So here I would give the win to the Mate 60 Pro for the ultra wide angle footage for sure. Then of course we have the bravura color signs on the Magic 5 Pro, making everything a little bit more bluer and less contrasty and a little bit less HDR-y. But what I wanted to compare here is the bokeh of the almost 1-inch size sensor here against the f1.4, and here it is like it was at f2 almost indistinguishable, where I'll say maybe the Mate 60 Pro has slightly less bokeh, but here at f1.4 it's like almost indistinguishable, the same as with the photos. You don't see the difference here between the larger sensor and the bokeh of the Magic 5 Pro and the Mate 60 Pro. What is your opinion? Write it down in the comments. Daylight shots. On the left always the Magic 5 Pro, on the right always the Mate 60 Pro. We start off with the main camera sensor. What we can see here, much more punchier colors on the Magic 5 Pro. You can see it here in the blue sky, but also in the greens down below. What you also notice is, besides the subtle color, is the sharpness difference. The Mate 60 Pro appears to be a lot sharper here. It's not over sharpening. I think it's just simply a different focus point. You can see it here when I go here to the distance. The Magic 5 Pro was focusing on the distance, where the Mate 60 Pro is focusing on the foreground. You can see here the foreground nice and sharp, where the Magic 5 Pro is not so sharp and it's a bit softer there on the Mate 60 Pro, the distance, the bridge there. Why is it appearing nevertheless pretty sharp on the Mate 60 Pro? Because it has f2 here, the variable aperture shows f2 here as aperture. Otherwise we can see this bluish tint here also on the green leaves of the tree, where we have a little bit more brightened up spots on the Magic 5 Pro, and it's a bit darker on the Mate 60 Pro for sure. Let's talk about the close focus and distance of the 3.5 times telezoom lens. The Mate 60 Pro has a macro mode there. The Magic 5 Pro can get very close and it's still confirming that it is sharp, but here you can see the difference. Yes, the Mate 60 Pro can get closer and has a better tele macro cam. I can step a little bit further away with the Magic 5 Pro to get it all in sharp, but you can see also that I'm casting a shadow with the Mate 60 Pro because I can get so close with the tele macro, where the Magic 5 Pro I have to step a little bit back, and so the flower is still in the sun. Talking about macro cams, the Magic 5 Pro is utilizing its ultra wide angle for this. The Mate 60 Pro is using its tele zoom lens, and you can see the difference here in terms of sharpness. Again, the Mate 60 Pro wins against the Magic 5 Pro. Magic 5 Pro is not bad, but the Mate 60 Pro, even it's a bit over sharpening, offers the better macro capability. Ultra wide angle, Mate 60 Pro, again a little bit warmer kind of color. Look at the pavement, and look at the pavement here, cooler kind of color on the Magic 5 Pro. Also a bit more contrasty look on the Mate 60 Pro. The shadows are a bit darker, but when we take a look at the zoom and not the zoom and the sharpness level, you can see that the wall is much sharper on the Mate 60 Pro, and this is throughout the whole image, even towards the sides where the ultra wide angles usually get very soft. You can see that the Magic 5 Pro's ultra wide angle is just simply a lot softer than the Mate 60 Pro, so the Mate 60 Pro is winning here. Both have 13mm ultra wide angles, so yeah, a bit of more contrasty kind of look, less contrasty look on the Magic 5 Pro. Which one do we prefer more in terms of colors? In terms of sharpness and details, the Mate 60 Pro is the clear winner here. Let's talk about 10 times zoom with 3.5 times zoom lens on both. You can see that both managed to capture a nice shot here of those people in this boat. We have a bit of over processing, over sharpening. The Magic 5 Pro and the Mate 60 Pro maybe a little less over processing, a bit more softening, but fighting with chromatic aberrations. And even the background, you can see this one guy stepping into the river, and this one going with his dogs. And what you can see here is the over sharpening, more details on the green grass there, where he's a bit softer on the Mate 60 Pro, and also chromatic aberrations keeping it. I think they are basically on par with this, maybe slight edge to the Magic 5 Pro. Selfies on first glance, Magic 5 Pro the winner, because not so much shadow on my face, and also the background looks more natural, where it's like a bit over processed, too much shadow details there, on too much shadows on the Mate 60 Pro. But when it comes to sharpness, the Mate 60 Pro redeems itself because it is a lot sharper, more detailed than the Magic 5 Pro, even though I like the color rendition of the Magic 5 Pro a little bit better. So this point is basically equal. 3.5 times versus 3.5 times zoom now. Let's take a look at the shots here and processing on texts like those here. Again, the color difference, much more subtle colors, much more punchier colors on the Magic 5 Pro. For some reason also here some bluish kinds of tints on this, on the sign that was not visible to my eye. On the Mate 60 Pro, a little bit more yellowish kind of color there. Both doing basically the same in this case. We see the same kind of chromatic aberration issues on the Mate 60 Pro. When I zoom into 10 times, you can see that we have some introduced yellowish in between the letters, which is a bit weird, might come from the processing, where the Magic 5 Pro still has like this bluish kind of tint here in the background for some reason, which is not visible to the eye, to the naked eye, so I'm not sure what's going on here. Otherwise, in terms of like zoom levels, basically the same. I don't see much of a difference there. And when I go to 30 times zoom, both very clear, very readable. The Magic 5 Pro, a lot of sharpening going on. The Mate 60 Pro not so much, but has this like yellowish kind of things in between the letters somehow, where the Magic 5 Pro has like this white bluish kind of tint there. So it's like you can see this zebra pattern, like there's a bit white, there's a bit of white, and there's a bit of blue and blue. Not sure what's going on there. Otherwise, like very, very comparable. As you can see here, the optimization for texts is pretty straightforward. Basically on par. I don't see much of a difference there. Where the Mate 60 Pro wins is the portrait mode, because we can get 3.5 times portraits, where the Magic 5 Pro only offers a crop on the main sensor at 2 times. So very sharp indeed here on the Mate 60 Pro, very nice looking. And the Magic 5 Pro at 2 times also not disappoints here, because it's also very sharp looking and very good in details. When you take a look at the 2 times zoom on the Mate 60 Pro, there's also a crop in from the main sensor. What we can see is here a lot softer than the Magic 5 Pro. And a bit warmer as well, so I would give the win here to the Magic 5 Pro for the 2 times portrait mode crop. But as portraits in general, you can use the Mate 60's 3.5 times zoom, so portraits basically on par. When it comes to sensor size, how can you detect sensor size? One is close focusing distance and checking the bokeh as well. As some other factors here, I was checking the bokeh and the close focusing distance. As you can see, the Mate 60 Pro can get a bit closer than the Magic 5 Pro, and the bokeh looks also a little bit more pronounced on the Magic 5 Pro. So overall, yes, the 1/1.12 inch size sensor on the Magic 5 Pro is larger than the Mate 60 Pro's 1/1.28 inch sized sensors. So almost 1/1.3 inch size sensor on the Mate 60 Pro. That is almost confirmed, I would say. The Magic 5 Pro and the Mate 60 Pro in portrait mode indoors. Now photographing my dog here. This is at 2 times, both doing a pretty good job. A bit more warmer kind of color on the Magic 5 Pro, a bit cooler on the Mate 60 Pro, interestingly enough. In terms of sharpness and detail level, my dog here, yeah, the nose maybe a tad sharper on the Mate 60 Pro, but this is like maybe because he changed his position there slightly in between the shots. And then 3.5 times versus 3 times zoom on the Magic 5 Pro. We can see it's a bit softer. This is now not using the bokeh mode, the portrait mode. This is now using the normal mode against the portrait mode. And here you can see, yes, the Mate 60 Pro wins there for sure. 3.5 versus 3.5 time, normal mode, no portrait mode. Both very sharp here. I would give the slight win maybe to the Magic 5 Pro, because in this occasion it appears to be a bit sharper and more detailed around the eyes, especially the hairs there. Could be because on the Mate 60 Pro the dog was moving, and this is an issue that I saw of the Mate 60 Pro, very slow processing time. So as soon as the dog moves around and you try to shoot him with the 3.5 times indoors or even outdoors, it's like getting very blurry, which is an issue with the processing. Taking a look at how can the Mate 60 Pro compete in terms of bokeh. We have a larger sensor and very large aperture on the Magic 5 Pro that can compete with 1 inch size sensors already, but here we have the Mate 60 Pro's default and the Magic 5 Pro's default bokeh, and what you can see here, yes, more bokeh on the Magic 5 Pro thanks to the larger sensor, but the Mate 60 Pro has the possibility of aperture mode and opening up the aperture to f1.4 instead of using f2, which is chose by default, and you can see very much comparable. So yes, the Mate 60 Pro can compete in terms of bokeh with the Magic 5 Pro that only has a very slight edge, I would say here, but very, very comparable in terms of bokeh. So if you want to cut out your subject or object from the background, both can do a pretty much equal job in that regard. You can also take a look at the back here, and the back here you can see, yes, maybe more chromatic aberrations, but the bokeh is almost on par there in comparison to the f2 that looks like this, which is much more in focus there on the Mate 60 Pro. Yeah, that's it basically in terms of daylight comparison. What do you think about the photos and the images there, and which one performs better in your opinion? So this is now the recording with the Mate 60 Pro in nighttime, 4K 30 frames per second, walking towards a light source. How is my face illuminated? I hope it is doing fine, and even if I walk past this one, it is working fine. How is the audio quality here on the Mate 60 Pro? And of course we don't have a night mode here sadly, but I will try it out anyway, walking towards the darker part here to see how it looks like even with the light in the background. Now, is it noisy? How noisy is it in comparison to the Magic 5 Pro? And what do you think about the quality here of the Huawei Mate 60 Pro? What do you think? This is now nighttime footage with the Honor Magic 5 Pro. I'm walking towards the light, and you should see me very, very good right now. And yeah, 4K recording here right now. It has also a super night mode for video, but this is switching down to 1080p. Let's try it out. This is now the super night mode on the Honor Magic 5 Pro, and I'm walking towards the dark, the lamp in the background. And yeah, what do you think about the quality here? Is it illuminating my face quite nicely? How does it look like here in the dark with this pretty large sensor, almost 1-inch size sensor, using the internal mics, by the way? Night photos. The Magic 5 Pro in this selfie has a bit of cooled down colors, a bit warmer kind of colors, especially on my face on the Mate 60 Pro. Brighter background, but when it comes to sharpness and details, yeah, the Magic 5 Pro is not doing bad, but the Mate 60 Pro is just beating it hands down in clarity, details, sharpness, everything. And even if I like the colors a bit more on the Magic 5 Pro, the Mate 60 Pro is a clear winner in selfie time at night. When it comes to the main camera sensor and this very harsh and hard struggling photo with all the light sources there, both have some problems with those stripes here, light stripes or lens flare effects that you can see here, and that you can see here all over the place on the Magic 5 Pro. When it comes to the details, the Mate 60 Pro struggles a bit with HDR as well, as you can see here, and over processing, I would say. So look at this little sign here, how much of an artifact it has there because it's over processing. On the other hand, this over processing is also sharpening up things and making it look clearer, just like the trees here and the leaves there in the trees look much more clearer. The color, however, is a bit wrong here, especially on the Mate 60 Pro, it's a bit too bluish there. I think the more white kind of color on the Magic 5 Pro is more correct there, especially on the fuel station. Otherwise, the clarity is a bit better on the Mate 60 Pro. I think the lanterns here are a bit too yellowish. The Magic 5 Pro is doing a little bit of a better job there. But look at this, the huge difference here. Look at, first of all, the Mate 60 Pro, and look at the colors here. Yes, it's also shifting a bit into greenish more, but getting a bit more whitish, more accurate, where on the Magic 5 Pro, look at the fuel station here, white, and here for some reason yellow, and I don't know why. When we take a look at the other details here, yeah, the Magic 5 Pro is censoring the prices because probably they are too high, but we can clearly read Diesel Super 10 Super Supreme. It's still readable, but a bit more blurry on the Magic 5 Pro at 3.5 times zoom. And also the bottom here, yes, it's a bit over processed looking on the Mate 60 Pro, but it is readable, where the Magic 5 Pro is a bit blurrier all over the place. Even this sign here, I almost can read here, this on the red sign there. Here it's a bit more orangey maybe. So yeah, which one is the winner for you here at 3.5 times and 10 times, because they're using the same kind of sensor. And here, yeah, basically the overprocessing and the noise is apparent on the Mate 60 Pro, but you still have the possibility to read Punkten, Einlösen, Sparen and Deutschlandcard, which is like a white bar here on the Magic 5 Pro, and P, E and S, and the rest is a bar, as you can see there. So yeah, it depends on which you like better. I think it is a win slightly for the Mate 60 Pro, even though it's blurry and doesn't look pleasant. But if you have to read stuff at 10 times zoom in night, then yeah, the Mate 60 Pro definitely. 1-inch, almost 1-inch type sensor on the Magic 5 Pro has its advantages as well. Just like here you can see, I think even at f1.4 in auto mode, the Mate 60 Pro is struggling a little bit with HDR again here. Look at this. A bit overblown here, a bit over processed, where it's much clearer on the Magic 5 Pro, and the same goes here for the sides. I think that the Mate 60 Pro struggles a little bit there, and the Magic 5 Pro is a bit better. Ultra wide angle is a clear win for the Magic 5 Pro, which is interesting because in contrast to the daylight shots where the Mate 60 Pro was winning, here I think the Mate 60 Pro has some issues with the light sources because it's very soft, and the Magic 5 Pro doesn't have this issue apparently, even with the light directly shining into it, and it's a lot sharper there. The thing is also that the Magic 5 Pro automatically applies night mode. The Mate 60 Pro in this case did not really apply its night mode, because when I switch to the dedicated night mode, this is the shot that I get with the Magic 5 Pro. So it's identical to the other shot. With the Mate 60 Pro, however, this is what I get with the Mate 60 Pro. Much brighter, much more orangey, much more like apocalyptic looking for some reason. But yeah, I think they need to improve it, but the sharpness is there at least now. It's a bit overexposed for sure. Some HDR issues there. I think the ultra wide angle wins for the Magic 5 Pro. Here, very interesting, night mode, very dark, so I had to switch to night mode manually and let them shoot the night mode. Both wrong colors, too yellow on the Magic 5 Pro, too magenta-ish on the Mate 60 Pro. But when it comes to detail levels, I think the Mate 60 Pro can keep up with its f1.4 and yeah, 1/1.28 1/1.28 inch size sensor. We can see it here, the apical sign and the foreground, in the background, I mean in the foreground as well. It's much clearer on the Mate 60 Pro, and it doesn't look too over-processed here, in my opinion. And also the shadows are a bit raised there, a little bit more raised than on the Magic 5 Pro. So yes, I think I will call it a draw between the Mate 60 Pro and the Magic 5 Pro in this occasion with the main camera sensors. But maybe not. Let's take a look at the auto mode. So in night mode, I call it a draw. In auto mode, it's a clear win for the Magic 5 Pro. This is the auto mode. You can clearly see the stars first of all. Both can capture them. A bit bluish on the Mate 60 Pro and a bit more greenish on the Magic 5 Pro. I like the Mate 60 Pro's color better, but the sharpness is better on the Magic 5 Pro. You can see it here in the trees, much clearer there with its slightly superior sensor. Which one do you like better? I, in general, would call it a draw between the main camera sensors. Even here, the Magic 5 Pro is a little bit better here and there. Mate 60 Pro has, I think, sometimes advantages with the color, some disadvantages with Magic 5 Pro. So sometimes it's a hit or miss on both. And I think that maybe I'm leaning towards a little bit the Magic 5 Pro, but the Mate 60 Pro sometimes also astonished me with good shots. So I call it a draw, maybe with slight advantages to Magic 5 Pro on this side. So what is your opinion in terms of night photography? Let's talk about the ranking. This is the previous version that I had, Huawei Mate 60 Pro against the Mate 50 Pro, where I ranked the main camera photo quality 4.7. But now against the Honor Magic 5 Pro that also has 4.7, I noticed that I cannot really hold it up here at 4.7 because we have a slightly worse, it's a slight deviation here, slightly worse main camera when it comes to the low light photography capabilities. That might improve in the future, but for now I have to change this score to 4.6. So I did already, and here you get the new score. So the Huawei Mate 60 Pro has now the main photo quality a little bit worse than the main photo quality on the Honor Magic 5 Pro. It's very comparable also in terms of bokeh thanks to a f1.4 aperture, but in low light it falls a little bit short, it falls a little bit behind the Magic 5 Pro. When it comes to the ultra wide angle, it is way better, it is a lot sharper. In nighttime photography, however, I was like a bit disappointed there because I think the Honor Magic 5 Pro did a little bit better, but in daylight where it really matters there, it is really superior to the ultra wide angle in optics and in lens flare. In almost everything it is superior, so this is why we have this score here. In terms of zoom, they're very comparable to each other. Yes, both have a close focusing mode on the Honor, and the Huawei has a real macro mode there on the tele zoom lens, but in the end the results that you can get, especially when it comes to long zooms and so on, very comparable. I cannot choose one over the other. They're very basically on par there. One have some weaknesses there where the others have strengths, but on the other hand they have some other weaknesses, so they are basically ruling themselves out and finding themselves in the middle at 4.2 points. Video recording quality is very interesting because here I think the Huawei made a huge step forward with the Mate 60 Pro in comparison to the previous versions, and it is a bit better than the Honor Magic 5 Pro. The Magic 5 Pro has the possibility of like this various different filters that you can use in movie mode, but it falls short when it comes to the nice bokeh and the nice colors that the Mate 60 Pro produce. At least in my taste, it's just like a little bit better, not so harsh of a contrast, not too much punch in the videos, where it is a bit too punchy on the Magic 5 Pro, not only in the default mode but also in the other ones, a bit too contrasty this look, and it is a bit more smartphone-like on the Honor Magic 5 Pro, where the Huawei Mate 60 Pro goes more into this DSLM category. Autofocus performance is also slightly better on the Mate 60 Pro. They really improved there on the main camera sensor, but also when it comes to the zoom camera and so on, the autofocus performance is just a tad better on the Mate 60 Pro there. Front cam is basically the same, not much of a difference there, but the sharpness is a lot different, is better on the Huawei Mate 60 Pro. So it's also like only a notch better there, but it is noticeably better. And especially in low light, the front cam is really king. The camera UI is, I think, still a little bit better on the Honor phone, just a tad better there, a little bit like thought through, I think, with its movie mode, for example, as extra feature, but also with the zoom buttons and the slider offering like a little bit more of vibration when you reach a certain amount of zoom option, which is something that Huawei can still improve upon, but I'm pretty sure they will improve upon, and then we have like almost the same there. Extra features, I think the Huawei wins just because of the NM card feature that they have there, the possibility to just use an extended memory. This is why we have 4.5 points here, because yeah, these extra features really matter. I like the extra feature on the Honor Magic 5 Pro to use every Bluetooth device as a microphone. That is something that the Huawei Mate 50 Pro still had. The Mate 60 Pro doesn't have this anymore. I'm not sure if it's a Qualcomm specific thing, but yeah. On the other hand, Huawei Mate 60 Pro has now the Kirin high quality Bluetooth recording 20 kilohertz again. So yeah, I'm keeping the score here at 4.5. So in the end, the result is 4.435 on the Huawei Mate 60 Pro and 4.3599999 on the Honor Magic 5 Pro. Where does this lead us? It leads us to the Huawei Mate 60 Pro still being on top, like a notch better than the Huawei P60 Pro. P60 Pro still better in terms of zoom quality for sure. And yeah, the Huawei P50 Pro even beating them in terms of zoom quality, but having the weaker main camera sensor. I think the Huawei P60 Pro also has the weaker main camera sensor. At least I had also weaker autofocus there in video performance. So this is why we have less points there in autofocus. But also the aperture, variable aperture and so on did not look so delicious as on the Mate 60 Pro. And yeah, the Honor Magic 5 Pro down below here has a high score for the main camera, but then the ultra wide angle is ruining it a little bit. The zoom camera is okay, I would say. Video recording could be a tad better. I think the colors are here the main problem, and the ultra wide angle being weak also not helping there. And yeah, the autofocus I think is solid. Front cam is very solid as well. Camera UI is solid, and the extra features maybe here and there add some extra features as well would help with certain things like expandable memory, for example, would be one way of doing this for the camera. Otherwise, yeah, what do you think? Write it down in the comment section. That's everything for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Until the next time, bye.